The notification popped up on my iPad while I was reviewing quarterly reports at 11:45 p.m. on a Tuesday. My wife Melissa's iCloud had just synced. We'd shared our Apple IDs years ago, one of those married couple conveniences that made downloading apps easier and kept our photo libraries accessible to both of us. I hadn't thought about it in probably 3 years. But there it was. A new album titled Do Not Open had just uploaded to our shared storage. My finger hovered over the notification. Every instinct screamed that I should close the iPad, go to bed, pretend I'd never seen it. But my hand moved on its own. The first photo showed Melissa in our bedroom, our actual bedroom, the one I'd painted seafoam green last spring because she said it would help her anxiety. She was wearing black lingerie I'd never seen before. The angle suggested she'd taken it herself, arm extended, face tilted in that practiced way people do for selfies. The second photo showed her in the same outfit, but this time there was a timestamp visible on our nightstand clock. 2:47 p.m. last Thursday, the day I'd been in Denver for the medical equipment conference. The third photo wasn't a selfie. Someone else had taken it. Melissa was on our bed, the bed where we'd conceived our daughter Emma, the bed where we'd held each other through her father's death 2 years ago, and she wasn't alone. I didn't recognize the man. He looked younger than me, maybe late 20s to my 38. Athletic build, the kind of body that comes from having time for the gym instead of working 60-hour weeks to make partner at a medical device firm. There were 47 photos in the album. I sat there in my home office, the leather chair creaking under me as I scrolled through documentation of my wife's affair, each image time-stamped and geotagged. My hands didn't shake. My breathing stayed even. The weird thing about trauma is that sometimes your body just goes numb, like your nervous system decides to shut down rather than process what's happening. The metadata told a story more detailed than any confession. The affair had been going on for at least 4 months based on the earliest timestamps. They'd been careful, or so they thought. Most of the photos were taken during my business trips or when I was at the office late. The locations varied. Our house, what looked like a hotel room, once in a car I didn't recognize. But Melissa had made a critical mistake. She'd been storing these photos in a hidden album on her phone, probably password protected, thinking they were secure. What she'd forgotten, or never knew, was that our iCloud accounts were linked, and when she'd upgraded her phone earlier that day, the backup had synced everything to our shared storage. I checked the clock. 12:13 a.m. Melissa was asleep upstairs. Emma, our 6-year-old daughter, was asleep down the hall from her. It was Wednesday morning now. In 7 hours, I'd need to be at the office for a presentation to potential investors. In 8 hours, Emma would need to be at school. I did something that surprised me. I opened my laptop and started taking screenshots. Then I accessed our iCloud account through the web browser and downloaded every single photo to an encrypted folder on my hard drive. I created 3 separate backup copies on different USB drives. Only then did I delete the album from our shared iCloud, making sure it was gone from the recently deleted folder too. Melissa would notice it was missing eventually, but by then it wouldn't matter. I spent the next 2 hours going through our financial records. Our joint checking account showed regular cash withdrawals, $200 every Friday for the past 4 months. Our credit card statement revealed charges at a boutique lingerie shop I'd never heard of, a hotel in the downtown area, and multiple purchases at restaurants I'd never been to. How had I missed this? The answer was simple. I'd been busy, building my career, providing for our family, trusting my wife of 9 years. I'd been working late, traveling for conferences, doing everything I thought a good husband and father should do. And while I was out there building our future, Melissa had been building something else entirely. At 2:30 a.m., I finally allowed myself to feel something. Not anger, not yet. Just a profound sense of displacement, like I'd woken up in someone else's life. The woman sleeping upstairs wasn't the person I'd married. Or maybe she was, and I'd just never really known her. I pulled up the contact list on my phone and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in years. Patrick Brennan, my college roommate who'd gone into family law. We'd kept in touch sporadically, Christmas cards, the occasional beer when he was in town. He practiced in Connecticut, same state where Melissa and I had built our life together. I didn't call him. Not yet. It was the middle of the night, and I needed to think clearly. Instead, I opened a new document on my laptop and started writing down everything I knew. Dates, times, locations, amounts. I documented every piece of evidence I'd found, cross-referencing it with my own calendar to build a timeline. Where I'd been when she'd been with him. How many times I'd called her from a hotel room in another city while she'd been in our bed with someone else. The sun started rising around 5:45 a.m. I heard Emma's alarm go off upstairs. She insisted on waking herself up for school, said it made her feel like a big girl. The sound of her footsteps overhead, small and quick, moving from her bedroom to the bathroom. My daughter. The thought of her finding out someday made my chest tight. I opened the insurance portal at 7:23 a.m. Thursday morning, 3 days after the discovery. Melissa had left for her book club breakfast, another line item I'd started tracking. Emma was at school. The house felt larger when empty, every sound amplified. The flood insurance renewal notice had arrived in my email the previous afternoon. Standard annual review for our Carson City property, the rental house Melissa had inherited from her father 2 years ago. I'd handled the estate paperwork while she grieved, transferred the deed, set up the property management company, arranged everything so she wouldn't have to think about it. I clicked through to the policy dashboard. Premium due in 30 days. Coverage limits unchanged. Zone designation AE, same as last year. Then I saw the claim history tab. My coffee went cold in my hand. One claim, filed 8 months ago. Status, paid. Amount, $4,300. I hadn't known about any claim. The details loaded slowly, each line appearing like evidence photographs had 3 nights ago. Claim date, March 15th. Incident date, March 12th. Description, basement water damage from municipal line backup during spring flooding. March 12th. I pulled up my calendar. Denver. 3-day conference, the one where I'd presented to the Midwest distributors. The claim file included an adjuster's report. I downloaded the PDF, watching the progress bar with the same detached focus I'd applied to everything since Tuesday night. The adjuster's name was Robert Klein, licensed in Nevada since 2008. His assessment ran 4 pages. Professional photographs showed water damage in the basement, dark staining on drywall, warped flooring, damaged storage boxes. The timestamps on the photos, March 13th, 9:47 a.m. I scrolled to page 3. Claimant reported incident occurred evening of March 12th upon return from errands. States she discovered flooding upon entering basement to retrieve dry cleaning. Water approximately 2 to 3 inches deep throughout finished basement area. Claimant and companion evacuated remaining stored items to upper floor to prevent further damage. Companion. I read it again. The word didn't change. Claimant and companion evacuated remaining stored items. The next paragraph continued. Municipal crews confirmed mainline backup affecting 3 properties on street. Claimant stated she was present at property conducting routine maintenance check when incident discovered. Companion identified as contractor assisting with property inspection. I pulled up my phone, found Melissa's location history from March 12th. She'd told me she was having dinner with her college friend Jennifer that night. Jennifer who'd moved to Sacramento. Jennifer whose visit had been last minute. The location data showed her phone in Carson City from 6:47 p.m. to 11:23 p.m. on March 12th, a Tuesday. Emma had been at my mother's house that week. Spring break, I'd been traveling. Melissa had said she needed time to process her grief about her father's house. I opened the full claim file. There were more documents, contractor estimates, remediation invoices, contents loss inventory. The contents list included items I recognized from our garage, boxes we'd moved from her father's house, things Melissa had said she'd donated to Goodwill. Antique desk lamp, $800. Vintage rug, $2,400. Collection of first edition books, $6,200. I'd helped her pack those boxes. The lamp had a broken socket. The rug had moth damage. The books were Reader's Digest condensed editions from the 1970s, worthless. The remediation invoice was from Silver State Restoration Services. I Googled them. Legitimate company, good reviews. The work had been done. The basement had been flooded. The insurance company had verified everything, paid everything. But the contents values were inflated. Significantly. And there had been a companion. I clicked back to the adjuster's report, looking for any other mention. Page 4 had interview notes. Spoke with claimant and companion on site during inspection. Companion provided assistance moving damaged items for photography. Claimant emotional regarding family heirloom losses. Companion supportive, assisted with documentation process. The claim had been filed jointly, Melissa's signature on the forms, but the companion had been there throughout the process. Had helped document everything. Had been present during the adjuster's visit. Had been in Carson City with her overnight, while I was in Denver and Emma was at my mother's. I pulled the insurance company's photo archive. 37 images of water damage, ruined drywall, warped floors. Professional documentation, each image tagged with timestamp and location data. Image 23 showed the basement stairs. In the background, barely visible in the reflection of a framed photograph on the wall, 2 figures. The image quality was poor. The adjuster had been focused on the water damage, not the background details. I downloaded the image, opened it in photo editing software, zoomed in on the reflection. A woman in jeans and a dark jacket. Melissa. And beside her, a man. Athletic build, dark hair. The same build as the man from the bedroom photos. The same man who'd been in our bedroom, in our bed, was the companion who'd helped her file an insurance claim in Carson City. I sat back in my chair. The leather creaked. They'd used the flood, a real incident, actual damage, as an opportunity. She'd called him. He'd driven to Carson City. They'd spent the night together while documenting losses. Then they'd inflated the contents values, claimed family heirlooms that were garage sale junk, and split $47,000. Insurance fraud. Federal crime when it crossed state lines, which it had. Our primary residence was here in Connecticut. The claim was in Nevada. I opened a new document, started typing. Timeline first. March 12th incident. My location, her location, Emma's location. Then the claim details. Filing date, adjuster visit, payout date, and amount. Then the contents list with actual values versus claimed values. The lamp. Claimed $800, actual value maybe $20. The rug. Claimed $2,400, actual value $0. We'd thrown it away because of the moths. The books. Claimed $6,200, actual value perhaps $30 for the whole box. Fraudulent inflation, approximately $15,000 on contents alone. I pulled our joint bank statements from March and April. The insurance payout had gone to an account I didn't recognize. Not our joint checking, not her personal account. A new account, opened February 28th at a Carson City credit union. She'd planned this. Opened a separate account, waited for an opportunity, used a real incident to justify a fraudulent claim. My phone buzzed. Text from Melissa. Book club running long, probably home around 2. Can you grab Emma from school? I typed back, sure. Then I called the insurance company's fraud hotline. The number was at the bottom of every policy document, small print I'd never noticed before. A woman answered on the second ring. Professional voice, neutral tone. Insurance fraud reporting line, this is Angela speaking. I need to report a fraudulent claim, I said. My voice sounded normal, steady. Policy number. I read off the numbers from the renewal notice. And what is your relationship to this policy, sir? I'm the co-owner. The property is in my wife's name from an inheritance, but I'm listed as additional insured. I see. And what is the nature of the suspected fraud? I walked her through it. The claim details, the inflated contents values, the companion who'd been present throughout the process, the separate bank account for the payout. I kept my voice level, factual, just presenting evidence like I was briefing investors. Angela took notes. I could hear her keyboard clicking. And you have documentation of the actual values of these items? Photographs from when we packed them. Receipts for the donation items we actually gave to Goodwill. The lamp was broken. I have a photo of it in our garage with the broken socket visible. Can you email those to the address I'm about to provide? I wrote down the email address. What happens next? We'll open an investigation. An investigator will review the claim file and your documentation. If they determine there's sufficient evidence of fraud, we can pause any pending payments and potentially pursue recovery of fraudulent payouts. We may also refer the case to law enforcement. The claim was paid 8 months ago. We can still pursue recovery. There's no statute of limitations on insurance fraud in Nevada. We may also subpoena the adjuster's testimony if this proceeds to legal action. How long does an investigation take? Typically 4 to 6 weeks for initial review. If it proceeds to legal action, that timeline extends significantly. I thanked her and hung up. Then I opened the renewal form that had arrived yesterday. The premium was $1,247 for the year. Coverage limits: $450,000 for the structure, $100,000 for contents. I clicked through to the policy management screen, found the insured parties section. My name was listed as additional insured, which gave me modification rights. I removed Melissa from the policy. The system prompted me. This will remove Melissa Carson as primary policyholder. Continue? I clicked yes. New prompt. Please designate new primary policyholder. I entered my information, confirmed the changes. The policy updated. Effective immediately, I was the sole policyholder. Melissa's access to the insurance portal revoked. Her ability to file claims terminated. The renewal notice refreshed with my name alone. I saved the confirmation email, added it to my evidence folder. The insurance company's fraud investigator called me at work on Friday afternoon. Mr. Garrett, this is Dale Whitmore from National Coastal Insurance Special Investigations Unit. Do you have a few minutes to discuss the claim you reported yesterday? I stepped out of the conference room where we'd been reviewing Q3 projections and walked to an empty office. Yes, I have time. I've reviewed the documentation you provided, and I need to verify some details. You stated you were unaware of this claim until you accessed the renewal documents, is that correct? That's correct. I was at a conference in Denver when the flooding supposedly occurred. My wife handled everything without informing me. Papers rustled on his end. The claim file indicates 2 adults were present during the adjuster's inspection. Your wife and a male companion she identified as her brother, helping with the cleanup. Can you confirm whether your wife has a brother? My grip tightened on the phone. She's an only child. Her father passed away 2 years ago. No siblings. A pause. I see. And you've provided receipts showing the actual purchase prices for several claimed items. The discrepancies are significant. A lamp purchased at Target for $19 claimed at $800. Books you estimate at $30 total claimed at $6,200. I have the original purchase records for everything I could verify. The rug she claimed at $2,400 had moth damage before we even inherited the property. I have photos from the initial walkthrough showing the condition. Yes, I have those photos in your submission. Very thorough. His tone shifted slightly. Mr. Garrett, I need to ask, are you currently experiencing any marital difficulties that might be influencing this report? I'd expected this question. I discovered evidence of infidelity on Tuesday night. The same man who posed as her brother in the claim is her affair partner. But the fraud is separate from my personal situation. The numbers don't lie. She inflated the claim by approximately $15,000. Understood. I'm required to ask. Insurance fraud is a serious allegation, and we need to ensure the report isn't retaliatory in nature. Look at the documentation, the receipts, the photos, the timeline. My wife deposited the payout into a secret bank account I knew nothing about. This wasn't a mistake or a misunderstanding. It was deliberate fraud. Another pause. I'm going to need to interview your wife. We'll also be re-interviewing the adjuster who processed the claim and examining his field notes more carefully. The claim will be flagged for potential recovery action. What does that mean? If our investigation substantiates fraud, we'll demand repayment of the fraudulent portion of the claim. If your wife doesn't comply, we'll pursue civil action. We may also refer the matter to law enforcement, though that decision hasn't been made yet. My heart rate picked up. How long does the investigation take? Typically 4 to 6 weeks for a case like this. We'll contact you if we need additional information. In the meantime, I see you've already removed your wife from the policy as of the renewal date. That's your right as the property owner, but I should mention it may complicate her legal position if she's unaware of the investigation. The property was inherited from her father, but the deed is in my name. I transferred it for estate planning purposes 3 years ago. That's noted in our records. One more thing. The claim payout was $47,300. You're estimating approximately $15,000 was fraudulent. What about the remaining $32,000? I'd thought about this. There was legitimate water damage to the basement. The furnace needed replacement, some drywall, flooring. I'm not disputing the structural repairs. It's the contents claim that's fraudulent. She took a real incident and used it to inflate personal property losses. That matches what I'm seeing in the file. The structural repairs were verified by a contractor. The contents claim was based primarily on your wife's inventory list and photos of damaged items. The adjuster noted some concerns about valuations but approved them based on her statements. Will the adjuster face consequences? That's an internal personnel matter I can't discuss, but his notes will be part of our investigation. Whitmore cleared his throat. Mr. Garrett, I have to tell you, this is going to get complicated for your family. If we substantiate fraud and pursue recovery, it becomes a legal matter. If we refer it to law enforcement, it could become criminal. You should consider whether you want to proceed. I want to proceed. Understood. You'll receive a letter within 10 business days outlining the investigation timeline and your rights in the process. If you have any additional documentation, you can submit it through our secure portal. After he hung up, I stood in the empty office looking out at the parking lot. The afternoon sun glinted off windshields. Normal people leaving work early on a Friday, heading home to normal lives. I'd crossed a line by reporting the fraud. Before, I'd been gathering evidence, building a case, keeping everything contained. Now I'd involved a third party. The investigation would move forward whether I changed my mind or not. My phone buzzed. A text from Melissa. Running late. Can you pick up Emma from school? I checked the time. 3:15 p.m. School ended at 3:30. I'm still at work. Can you get her? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, fine. Thought you'd want to since you've been traveling so much. The passive aggression was typical. I pocketed my phone and headed back to the conference room. Emma was already asleep when I got home at 7:30. Melissa was in the kitchen loading the dishwasher, still wearing her yoga pants and a loose sweater. She didn't look up when I walked in. There's leftover chicken in the fridge if you're hungry. I ate at the office. I set my briefcase on the counter. How was your day? Fine. Emma has a science project due Monday. We worked on it after dinner. The normalcy felt surreal. She moved around the kitchen like nothing had changed, like I hadn't spent the last 3 days documenting her affair and fraud, like the insurance investigator wasn't reviewing her claim at this exact moment. I need to talk to you about the Carson City property, I said. Her hands stilled on a plate. What about it? The flood insurance renewed this week. I was reviewing the policy and saw there was a claim filed in March. $47,000. She resumed loading dishes, her movements careful. Oh, right. I meant to tell you about that. The basement flooded while you were in Denver. It was a mess. Why didn't you mention it? That's a significant claim. You were busy with the conference. I handled it. She closed the dishwasher and turned to face me. The insurance covered everything. It's fixed now. I pulled out my phone and opened the photos I'd saved of the claim documents. The payout went to an account at Carson City Credit Union. I don't have access to that account. Her expression flickered, just for a second, but I caught it. Surprise, then calculation. I opened it to handle the property expenses. It's easier than transferring money back and forth. You opened it in February, before the flood. I was planning ahead. The property needed work. I pulled up the contents inventory. The claim lists an antique lamp at $800. I have the Target receipt. $19. The color drained from her face. The adjuster helped me with the valuations. He said to estimate replacement cost, not what we paid. Replacement cost for a Target lamp isn't $800. I scrolled down. The books from your father's collection. You claimed $6,200. I looked up comparable sales. They're worth maybe $30 total. Those were first editions. They were book club editions from the 1970s. I have photos of the spines. She gripped the counter edge. Why are you doing this? The insurance paid the claim. It's over. It's fraud, Melissa. You inflated the claim by at least $15,000. I didn't. The adjuster approved everything. If there was a problem, he would have said something. I set my phone down. I reported it to the insurance company yesterday. They're investigating. The silence stretched between us. She stared at me like I'd become a stranger. You reported me? To the insurance company? I reported fraud. Yes. You're my husband. Her voice rose. You're supposed to be on my side. You committed insurance fraud. You lied about the values. You deposited the money in a secret account, and you had someone pose as your brother during the inspection. Her face went white. How do you... The adjuster's notes mention your brother helping with cleanup. You don't have a brother. She opened her mouth, closed it. Her hands were shaking. This is about the money. You've always controlled the finances, and you can't stand that I handled something on my own. This is about fraud and lying, and whoever that man was in the photos. I watched her process the words. Saw the moment she understood. What photos? The adjuster took photos during the inspection. There's a man visible in several of them. Young guy, late 20s. The one you told the adjuster was your brother. She backed away from the counter. I don't know what you're talking about. The insurance company is going to interview you. They're going to ask about the inventory, the valuations, and the man who was there. You should probably get your story straight. You're insane. You're making this up because you're angry about something. I'm angry about a lot of things. But the fraud is real. The investigation is real. And when they demand repayment, that secret account better have the money in it. She grabbed her phone off the counter. I'm calling my lawyer. Good idea. You're going to need one. She left the kitchen, her footsteps heavy on the stairs. A door slammed upstairs. I stood alone in the kitchen, my reflection visible in the dark window above the sink. The man looking back at me seemed older than he had a week ago. My phone buzzed. An email from the insurance company's secure portal confirming receipt of my fraud report and outlining the investigation timeline. 4 to 6 weeks. I forwarded it to my personal email, then saved a copy to the encrypted folder on my laptop. The evidence file was getting thick. The weekend passed in a strange holding pattern. Melissa stayed with her mother in Reno, or so she said. Emma asked twice why Mommy wasn't home, and I told her Grandma needed help with something. Not a lie, exactly. Just incomplete. Saturday morning, I sat in the den reviewing the flood insurance file one more time. The adjuster's notes kept drawing my attention. Two-person evacuation assistance noted. Claimant's brother helped remove items before water levels rose. Brother. I pulled up the claim photos again. The man in the background of one shot, barely visible through a doorway. Athletic build, late 20s. The same build as the man in Melissa's photos. The same posture. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, Carson City area code. Mr. Garrett, this is Dale Whitmore, Special Investigations Unit with Mountain West Insurance. We spoke earlier this week regarding claim number MW 2024-47382. I straightened in my chair. Yes, I remember. I wanted to update you on our preliminary findings. Do you have a few minutes? I do. Papers rustled on his end. We've reviewed the claim file, supporting documentation, and adjuster notes. We've also pulled surveillance footage from the storage facility where Mrs. Garrett claimed several high-value items were stored prior to the flood. I waited. The footage shows Mrs. Garrett accessing the unit twice in the week before the flood event, both times with a male companion matching the description of the individual identified as her brother during the inspection. What were they doing? Removing items. Large items. Furniture, boxes, what appears to be artwork. They loaded everything into a U-Haul trailer. He paused. The interesting part is what happened next. 3 days later, different footage shows them returning those same items to the unit, after the floodwaters had receded. My grip tightened on the phone. They staged it. That's our working theory. We're also seeing some inconsistencies in the claimed values. The Tiffany lamp she listed at $4,000? We tracked the serial number. It was purchased from a Reno antique mall 6 weeks before the flood for $350. Receipt shows her credit card. I closed my eyes. How many items? So far, 11 out of 23 high-value claims appear to be recently purchased, significantly inflated, or both. We're still working through the rest. What happens now? We're preparing a formal fraud referral to the Nevada Attorney General's office. Given the dollar amounts involved, we're looking at over $30,000 in fraudulent claims. This crosses the threshold for felony insurance fraud under Nevada law. That's a Category D felony, 1 to 4 years. The words settled over me like snow. Criminal charges. Prison time. We'll need your cooperation, Whitmore continued, particularly regarding the individual identified as Mrs. Garrett's brother. Do you know who he actually is? No. The word came out harder than I intended. But I have photos of him with my wife, in our home, in Connecticut. Silence on the other end, then. Mr. Garrett, I need to ask, are you aware of any other relationship between your wife and this individual? I'm aware she's been lying to me for months, about a lot of things. I see. More paper sounds. We'll need those photos, and we'll need to depose you regarding the claimed items. You were listed as co-owner of several pieces, but your signature on the initial inventory appears inconsistent with your signature on the policy documents. Because I never signed any inventory. That's what we suspected. We'll be referring that to the AG as well. Forgery adds another dimension. After we hung up, I sat staring at the insurance file. Melissa hadn't just committed fraud. She'd forged my signature, used my name to legitimize false claims, made me an unwitting accomplice. My laptop pinged. Email from Patrick Brennan, the family law attorney I'd finally contacted Thursday night. Garrett, Review the documents you sent. This is complicated but workable. Few things to discuss. 1. The insurance fraud gives us significant leverage in divorce proceedings, but we need to be strategic about timing. Criminal investigation could take months. 2. Connecticut is an equitable distribution state, not community property. The fraud proceeds, if we can prove they exist, would not be considered marital assets subject to division. 3. We should file for divorce before any criminal charges are filed. Looks better if you're the one taking action, not reacting to her legal troubles. 4. Custody. Her criminal exposure strengthens your position, but courts are reluctant to use parental misconduct as sole factor unless it directly impacts the child. We'll need to document everything. Can you come to my office Monday 2 p.m.? Bring all documentation, insurance files, financial records, photos, everything. Patrick. Monday, 2 days away. I spent Sunday with Emma at the park. She asked again about Melissa, and I told her Mommy would be home soon. Another incomplete truth. I was running out of those. That evening, after Emma was asleep, Melissa called. I want to come home. To get your things? To talk. Her voice sounded different, smaller. I spoke with a lawyer. He said I need to cooperate with the insurance investigation. You should cooperate. You committed fraud. It wasn't. She stopped. Started again. The adjuster approved everything. I didn't force him to accept those values. You forged my signature on the inventory. Silence. You removed items before the flood, then put them back after. You bought cheap items and claimed they were valuable heirlooms. You brought your... I caught myself. You brought someone to pose as your brother. Which part of that was the adjuster's idea? How do you know about... They have surveillance footage, Melissa, from the storage facility. They have purchase receipts. They have handwriting analysis of my signature. They have everything. I heard her breathing change. Quick, shallow, the anxiety breathing I'd learned to recognize over 9 years. My lawyer says I'm looking at felony charges. Yes. He says I could go to prison. Yes. What about Emma? Her voice cracked. What happens to Emma if I... You should have thought about that before you decided to commit insurance fraud. Before you decided to... I stopped again. The affair wasn't part of this conversation. Not yet. Before I what? Before you involved me in your scheme without my knowledge or consent. Before you forged my signature. Before you turned our inherited property into a crime scene. I needed the money. Almost a whisper. For what? No answer. For what, Melissa? I can't talk about this over the phone, please. Let me come home. Let me explain. I looked around the den. The insurance file still spread across the coffee table. The highlighted sections. The adjuster's notes about two-person evacuation. The claim addendum I'd never seen until Thursday. The insurance company is removing you from the policy. I signed the paperwork Friday. You can't do that. It's my property. It's your property. But I'm not going to be liable for your fraudulent claims. The policy is in my name. I have the right to remove listed occupants, especially when they're under investigation for fraud. That house is all I have left of my father. Then you shouldn't have used it to commit a felony. She was crying now. Full sobs. Once that sound would have broken me. Would have sent me scrambling to fix whatever was wrong, to make it better. Now it just sounded like noise. I'm meeting with my attorney Monday, I said. I suggest you do the same. And Melissa? Get a criminal defense lawyer, not just a divorce attorney. You're going to need one. You're filing for divorce. Yes? Because of the insurance thing. Among other things. What other things? The photos, the cash withdrawals, the secret bank account, the 4 months of lies, the man in our bedroom, in our bed, in the life I thought we were building together. We'll discuss it through lawyers. Please don't do this. Please. I made mistakes, but we can fix this. For Emma's sake. Don't. The word came out sharp. Don't use our daughter to justify what you did. Don't pretend this is about her. I love you. You forged my signature, Melissa. You committed fraud using my name. You put me at legal risk without my knowledge. That's not love. The other stuff? I can explain the other stuff. Just give me a chance. So she knew I knew. About the affair, the photos, all of it. Goodbye, Melissa. I ended the call before she could respond. The house felt very quiet. Upstairs, Emma's sound machine hummed white noise through her closed door. Outside, a car passed. Normal sounds. Normal night. Except nothing was normal anymore. My phone buzzed again. Text from Melissa. Please. Then another. I'm sorry. Then, I never meant for any of this to happen. I turned the phone face down and went back to the insurance file. Tomorrow I'd document everything for Patrick. Every forged signature, every inflated claim, every lie. The floodgates had opened. Now I just had to wait for the water to recede to see what was left standing when it did. The email from Dale Whitmore arrived at 9:47 a.m. on Thursday, 2 days after I'd filed the fraud report. Subject line: Carson City Insurance Matter. Update required. I opened it in my car, parked in the medical device firm's lot. I'd arrived early, unable to sleep past 5. The office wouldn't fill up for another hour. Mr. Thompson, our investigation has progressed more rapidly than anticipated. We've subpoenaed security footage from Carson City Self-Storage, facility located 0.3 miles from the insured property, for the period spanning January 15th, March 30th. Footage shows your wife and the male subject moving items matching the claim inventory into Unit 247 on January 18th, 3 days before the reported flood event. Items were returned to the property on February 1st, 11 days after our adjuster's inspection. Additionally, we've identified the male subject as Tyler Novak, age 27, employed as a personal trainer at Peak Fitness in Carson City. Mr. Novak has no familial relationship to your wife. He was interviewed yesterday and admitted to participating in what he termed helping Melissa with insurance stuff, but claims he was unaware it constituted fraud. He has retained counsel. Nevada prosecutors are reviewing the case for criminal charges. Given the premeditation evidenced by the storage unit rental, paid for with cash on January 12th, and forged signature, they're considering felony fraud charges. I'll need you available for a phone interview next Tuesday, March 12th at 2 p.m. Pacific. Separately, our forensic accountant traced the claim payout. The funds were deposited to Carson City Federal Credit Union account 47218834, opened by your wife on December 8th. On February 15th, $43,000 was wire transferred to an account at First Nevada Bank under the name Melissa Thompson DBA Silver State Consulting. That account shows subsequent transfers totaling $38,200 to various recipients between February 20 and March 1st. We're working to identify the recipients. Please confirm your availability for Tuesday's interview. Dale Whitmore, Senior Fraud Investigator. I read it twice, then a third time. Silver State Consulting. She'd created a business entity. The money hadn't just disappeared into shopping or gambling. She'd moved it deliberately, systematically, through multiple accounts to multiple recipients. $38,000 to various recipients in 10 days. My phone buzzed. Text from Patrick Brennan, the attorney I'd consulted 3 days ago. Got the insurance investigator's report you forwarded. This changes things. Criminal fraud investigation gives us leverage in divorce proceedings, but also complicates timeline. Can you come to my office today? 3 p.m.? I replied. I'll be there. Another buzz. This one from Melissa. We need to talk. Emma asked why you slept in the guest room again. She's worried. I stared at the message. We'd barely spoken since the confrontation 2 nights ago, when I'd told her about the fraud investigation and the divorce attorney. She'd gone pale, then angry, then desperate, cycling through emotions like someone flipping channels. She'd demanded to know why I was doing this to her, as if I'd manufactured the evidence myself. I hadn't mentioned Emma yet. Hadn't figured out what to say to a 6-year-old about why Daddy wasn't sleeping in Mommy's room anymore, why the house felt like 2 armed camps occupying the same square footage. I typed back, "Attorney meeting at 3. We'll discuss Emma tonight." The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. "You're really going through with this?" "Yes." "Because of a mistake? Because I made one mistake?" My thumb hovered over the keyboard. One mistake. As if the affair was a single lapse, not 4 months of deliberate deception. As if the fraud was an oversight, not a premeditated scheme involving storage units and fake businesses and forged signatures. I didn't respond. Just pocketed the phone and headed into the office. Patrick's office was in a renovated colonial in downtown Hartford 3rd floor, corner suite with windows overlooking the street. He'd done well for himself since college. Family law practice with 3 associates, reputation for handling complex divorces. He gestured me to a leather chair across from his desk. "I've reviewed everything you sent. The photos, the financial records, the insurance fraud documentation. I need to ask you something directly." I nodded. "Do you want this divorce to be adversarial, or do you want it done quietly?" "What's the difference?" "Adversarial means we use everything. The affair, the fraud, the forged signature. We push for full custody, claim she's unfit due to criminal activity. We make her defend herself on multiple fronts simultaneously. It's effective, but it's brutal. It'll cost more, take longer, and Emma will eventually understand what happened." He leaned back. "Quiet means we negotiate. Offer her a deal. She accepts a custody arrangement favorable to you, doesn't contest the asset division, and we keep the fraud investigation separate from divorce proceedings. She avoids having the affair documented in court records. You get what you want without turning it into warfare." "She committed fraud using my name," I said. "She forged my signature on legal documents. That's not something I can negotiate away." "I'm not suggesting you drop the fraud case. I'm suggesting we don't weaponize it in the divorce. Let the criminal investigation proceed independently. Focus the divorce on irreconcilable differences. Negotiate custody and assets. Get it done in 6 months instead of 18. I looked out the window. A young couple walked past on the sidewalk below, holding hands, laughing about something. They looked like Melissa and I had looked 9 years ago. "What would you recommend?" I asked. Patrick was quiet for a moment. "Honestly, given what the insurance investigator found, the business entity, the multiple transfers, I think there's more you don't know yet. The $38,000 went somewhere specific. Until you know where, you don't have the full picture." "You think she'll tell me?" "No, but the forensic accountant will find it. These things always leave trails." He pulled out a legal pad. "Here's what I suggest. We file for divorce citing irreconcilable differences. Standard language, nothing inflammatory. We propose a custody arrangement. You get primary physical custody given your stable employment and residence. She gets visitation. We offer a fair asset split based on Connecticut's equitable distribution laws." "Fair?" 50-50 on marital assets, minus the fraud amount. If she took $47,000 illegally, that comes out of her share. We document it as a debt she owes to the marital estate." He continued. "Meanwhile, the criminal investigation proceeds. If she's charged, that becomes leverage. If she's not charged but the insurance company sues for restitution, that's still leverage. Either way, we're not the ones attacking her. We're just responding to her actions." It made sense. Cold, Calculated, strategic, exactly how I'd been handling everything since I found those photos. Do it, I said. Patrick made a note. I'll draft the petition tomorrow. You'll need to decide how to serve her. Process server at home or at work or home. Saturday morning, Emma will be at her friend's house for a play date. He nodded. One more thing. The insurance investigator mentioned Tyler Novak, the personal trainer. Have you looked into him? Not beyond what Dale found. Might be worth understanding who he is. 27, personal trainer, willing to commit fraud for a married woman he's sleeping with. That's either stupidity or something else. If he's got a record or financial problems, or any history that suggests he targeted her specifically. You think this was a con? I think $47,000 is a lot of money, and it went somewhere fast. I think a man in his 20s doesn't usually get involved with a married woman's insurance fraud scheme unless there's something in it for him beyond the affair. Patrick closed the legal pad. Just something to consider. I got home at 6:15 p.m. Melissa's car was in the driveway. She'd started leaving work early this week, probably anticipating confrontations. Emma's backpack sat by the front door, pink and purple with a unicorn patch she'd insisted on adding herself. Melissa was in the kitchen, making dinner. Spaghetti from the smell. Emma's favorite. She's doing homework, Melissa said without turning around. I told her you'd check it when you got home. I found Emma at the dining room table, math worksheet spread out in front of her. She looked up when I entered, and her face brightened. Daddy, can you help with number 7? I don't get it. I sat beside her. The problem involved adding 2-digit numbers. Simple enough, but she'd been struggling with carrying over to the tens place. We worked through it together, her small hand gripping the pencil with intense concentration. For 10 minutes, everything was normal. Just a father helping his daughter with homework, the smell of dinner cooking, the sound of water running in the kitchen. Then Emma said, "Are you and Mommy fighting?" I kept my voice steady. Why do you ask? You don't smile at each other anymore, and you sleep in the other room. She looked at me with those wide brown eyes, Melissa's eyes. Did I do something wrong? No, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong. Mommy and I are just working through some grown-up stuff. What kind of stuff? Melissa appeared in the doorway, dish towel in her hands. Her expression was carefully neutral, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. Emma, honey, go wash your hands for dinner, she said. Emma looked between us, sensing the weight of something she couldn't name. Then she slid off the chair and headed for the bathroom. Melissa and I stood there in the dining room, 6 feet apart, the table between us like a demilitarized zone. We need to tell her something, Melissa said quietly. I know. So what do we tell her? I thought about the divorce petition Patrick would file tomorrow, the process server who'd arrive Saturday morning, the criminal investigation that might lead to charges, the $38,000 that went to unknown recipients for unknown purposes. We tell her the truth, I said, that sometimes people make choices that hurt the people they love, and that even when that happens, we both still love her. Melissa's face crumpled. You're really going to destroy our family over this? I didn't destroy it. You did. The flood insurance portal stayed open on my laptop for 3 days before I found the addendum. I'd been reviewing the Carson City property renewal, standard procedure since Melissa handled the initial claim, and I wanted to verify everything before we locked in another year. The base policy looked fine. Zone AE, 100-year floodplain, premium matched what I'd calculated. Then I clicked through to the claim history section. There it was. A supplemental addendum filed March 14th, 2 weeks after the original claim closed. Subject line: additional basement damage, dry cleaning incident. I opened it at 11:23 p.m. on a Thursday. Melissa was upstairs watching something on her iPad. Emma had been asleep for 2 hours. The addendum claimed an additional $3,800 in damages. According to the narrative, Melissa had been retrieving dry cleaning from the basement storage area on March 12th, when she discovered previously unnoticed water damage to stored winter clothing and bedding. The adjuster's notes included a detail that made my chest tighten. Claimant required assistance evacuating items due to mold concerns. Brother helped remove affected materials. Brother. I pulled up my phone and checked the dates. March 12th was a Tuesday. I'd been in Phoenix for a vendor meeting. Melissa had texted me that evening about Emma's parent-teacher conference being rescheduled. Nothing about dry cleaning. Nothing about discovering more damage. Nothing about needing help with anything. I went back to the adjuster's notes. The visit had been scheduled for 2 p.m. The report included timestamps. Arrival at 1:58 p.m. Inspection completed at 2:47 p.m. Departure at 2:52 p.m. The adjuster, a guy named Robert Finch, had noted two-person evacuation in the remarks section and included a brief description. Claimant and brother, Tyler, removed approximately 6 contractor bags of affected materials during inspection. Tyler. Not the brother. Tyler. First name basis. I opened the affair photo folder I'd been maintaining. Scrolled through until I found the metadata spreadsheet. March 12th appeared 4 times. The first photo timestamp, 11:34 a.m. The last, 4:16 p.m. Tyler Novak had been at the Carson City property for at least 5 hours that day. The adjuster had seen him there in the middle of that window, and Melissa had introduced him as her brother. I downloaded the addendum as a PDF, saved it to the encrypted folder with everything else. Then I went back through the original claim documents and found Melissa's signature on the initial filing. Compared it to the addendum signature. Both matched. Both were notarized by the same person, a mobile notary named Christine Lang, who worked out of Carson City. The additional payout had been deposited on March 21st. Same account as the original claim. I checked the bank statements I'd already pulled. The $3,800 had been transferred out on March 23rd. Same pattern as before. Moved to Silver State Consulting, then dispersed within 72 hours. I sat there staring at the screen until the laptop dimmed to conserve battery. She'd filed a supplemental claim. Brought Tyler to the inspection. Introduced him to an insurance adjuster as her brother. Collected another $3,800. Moved it through the same shell company. And I'd known nothing about it until right now, 6 weeks later. The renewal form sat on my desk where I'd printed it that afternoon. I'd planned to review it with Melissa over the weekend, get her signature, submit it before the May 15th deadline. Standard household administration. Except now, I was looking at a document that would bind us to another year of coverage on a property she'd been systematically defrauding. I pulled up the insurance company's fraud hotline number. Saved it to my phone. Then I opened the policy details and found the customer service line. Different number. I saved that too. Friday morning, I called Patrick. I found another claim, I said when he picked up. Supplemental addendum. She brought Tyler to the inspection and told the adjuster he was her brother. Patrick was quiet for 3 seconds. Send me everything. I forwarded the addendum, the adjuster's notes, the timeline comparison. He called back 20 minutes later. This is usable, he said. The adjuster can testify that she explicitly identified him as family. That's not just fraud. It's conspiracy. She coordinated with Novak to deceive the insurance company. What do I do with the renewal? Don't sign it. Don't submit it. Let it lapse. The property won't have flood coverage. That's her problem. You're not married to her anymore. Not in any way that matters. You report this fraud. You file for divorce. You let her deal with her own insurance issues. I looked at the renewal form on my desk. The signature line had both our names. Joint policy holders. Joint liability. Can I remove her from the policy instead of letting it lapse? Patrick paused. You're both on the deed? No, just her. Inherited property. Then she's the primary insured. You can't remove her. You can only remove yourself. What happens if I do that? Policy continues in her name only. She's responsible for the premium, the coverage, everything. You're completely separated from it. And if the insurance company investigates the fraud? They go after her, not you. You reported it. You cooperated. You removed yourself from the policy. You're clean. I pulled up the insurance portal and navigated to the policy management section. Found the option to remove a secondary policyholder. Clicked through the warnings about coverage implications and financial responsibility. Entered my credentials, confirmed the change. The system processed for 15 seconds. Then, policy updated. Coverage continues under primary policyholder Melissa Garrett. Secondary policyholder removed effective immediately. I screenshot the confirmation, saved it to the folder. Then I called the fraud hotline. The representative who answered sounded young, mid-20s maybe, professional, but not seasoned. I gave her the policy number and explained I needed to report suspected fraudulent claims on a flood insurance policy. Can you describe the nature of the suspected fraud? I walked her through it. The inflated values on the original claim, the staged damage. Tyler Novak posing as Melissa's brother during the supplemental inspection. The forged signature I discovered on the initial filing. The shell company transfers. She was quiet when I finished. Then, "Sir, I need to transfer you to our special investigations unit. Can you hold?" I held for 4 minutes. The next voice was older. Male. Flat effect. "This is Dale Whitmore, Fraud Investigations. I understand you're reporting suspicious activity on policy number FL447NV8834. I went through it again. More detailed this time. He asked specific questions. Timeline clarifications. How I'd discovered the information. Whether I'd confronted Melissa. Whether I had documentation. I have everything, I said. Bank statements showing the transfers. Photos with metadata proving her affair with the man she claimed was her brother. The original claim documents with what I believe is a forged signature. All of it. Can you send that to me? He gave me a secure email address. I sent the folder, redacted the intimate photos, kept the metadata and timeline documentation, included the adjuster's notes with Tyler's name, the supplemental addendum, the bank transfers. I'm also in contact with Nevada state prosecutors regarding potential criminal charges, I added, and I've filed for divorce. My attorney has copies of everything. Understood. We'll open an investigation immediately. The supplemental claim payout will be frozen pending review. If we determine fraud occurred, we'll seek full restitution and pursue legal action. I removed myself from the policy this morning. I'm no longer associated with it. Smart move. That protects you from any liability related to the fraudulent claims. He took my contact information. Said someone would follow up within 72 hours. Thanked me for reporting it. I hung up and sat in my office chair until my back started hurting. The renewal form was still on my desk. I picked it up, carried it to the kitchen, and set it on the coffee table in the living room. Took a yellow highlighter from the junk drawer and marked the addendum reference in the claim history section. Then I highlighted the two-person evacuation note. The date. Tyler's name. Melissa came downstairs at 6:47 p.m. Emma was at a friend's house for a sleepover. The house was quiet. She saw the form on the coffee table and stopped. Is that the insurance renewal? Read the highlighted sections. She picked it up. I watched her eyes move across the page. Saw the moment she understood. Her face went pale, then red, then carefully blank. I can explain. Don't. I kept my voice level. The insurance company froze the supplemental payout this afternoon. They're investigating both claims for fraud. I reported it. I gave them everything. You what? I also removed myself from the policy. It's in your name only now. Whatever happens next is your problem. She set the form down like it might burn her. You can't just... I already did, and I subpoenaed the adjuster, Robert Finch. He's going to testify about your brother Tyler helping you during the inspection. Her hands were shaking. This is insane. You're destroying everything over a mistake. You committed insurance fraud. You brought your affair partner to an official inspection and lied about who he was. You forged my signature. You moved nearly $50,000 through a shell company. I stood up. Those aren't mistakes. That's criminal conspiracy. I'll fix it. I'll pay it back. Too late. The floodgates are open, Melissa. Everything's coming out now. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in October, 6 months after I'd found those photos. Judge Patricia Walsh signed the decree at 3:17 p.m. in a Hartford courtroom that smelled like old wood and stale coffee. Melissa wasn't there. Her attorney accepted service on her behalf. She was in Nevada, dealing with her own problems. The criminal charges had come through in July. Nevada prosecutors filed 3 counts: insurance fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Tyler Novak took a plea deal: 18 months probation, restitution of $8,400, testimony against Melissa. He claimed she'd told him the insurance company owed her for legitimate damages they'd initially underpaid. The prosecutors didn't buy it, but his cooperation reduced his exposure. Melissa's trial was scheduled for January. Her attorney was pushing for a plea, but she was holding out, convinced she could explain everything to a jury. The insurance company had already won a civil judgment for $51,000, the full amount of both fraudulent claims plus interest. They'd placed a lien on the Carson City property. It would sell at auction in December. I got primary custody of Emma. Melissa got supervised visitation every other weekend, pending resolution of the criminal case. Emma asked questions sometimes: why Mommy lived far away now, why she couldn't come to the house anymore. I told her the truth in 6-year-old terms. Mommy made choices that had consequences, but she still loved Emma very much. I didn't tell her about the affair. That was a conversation for later, maybe never. Some truths don't help anyone. The settlement gave me the house, my retirement accounts, and my car. Melissa kept her vehicle and whatever remained in that Silver State Consulting account, which turned out to be $847. The forensic accountant had traced the rest. $22,000 had gone to Tyler over 3 months. Consulting fees, the invoices said. The remaining $16,000 had been spent on hotel rooms, dinners, a weekend trip to Lake Tahoe, and a $4,300 Cartier watch I'd never seen her wear. She'd burned through nearly $50,000 in 4 months, funding an affair and a lifestyle she'd hidden completely. Patrick handed me the final decree in the courthouse hallway. It's done. You're officially single. I looked at the signature page. My name. The judge's signature. The state seal of Connecticut embossed in blue. 9 years, erased in a 6-page document. The insurance investigator called yesterday, Patrick continued. They recovered about $38,000 from the property sale proceeds. You're not liable for the remainder. It's all on her. Good. You okay? I folded the decree and put it in my briefcase. I don't know yet. Emma and I developed new routines. Saturday mornings at the park. Sunday pancakes, my specialty, though they never came out as good as Melissa's used to. Homework at the dining room table every night at 6. Bedtime stories she was starting to outgrow but still requested. She asked about Melissa less as the months passed. Kids are adaptable that way. They accept new normals faster than adults. I sold the Carson City property myself before the auction could happen, negotiating directly with the lien holder. Got enough to clear the insurance judgment and walk away clean. Sent Melissa her half of what remained, $3,200. She didn't acknowledge it. Tyler Novak sent me a letter in November. Handwritten, 3 pages. He apologized for the situation and claimed he'd never intended to hurt anyone. Said Melissa had told him I was emotionally distant, that the marriage was already over, that she just needed help getting what she deserved from an insurance company that was screwing her over. I read it once, then shredded it. His intentions didn't matter. The damage was done. The trial happened in January, like scheduled. I didn't attend, but Patrick sent me updates. Melissa took a plea deal on the second day, guilty to 1 count of insurance fraud, the other charges dropped. Sentencing was set for March. 18 months in prison, 3 years probation, full restitution of remaining amounts owed. She'd serve maybe 10 months with good behavior. Out by Christmas next year. I told Emma that Mommy had to go away for a while to fix some mistakes she'd made. Emma cried. I held her and promised that people who love you don't disappear forever, even when they make bad choices. I wasn't sure I believed it, but she needed to hear it. On a Sunday morning in April, almost a year after everything started, I took Emma to the beach. The Connecticut shore was still cold, but the sun was out and she wanted to collect shells. She ran ahead of me, her purple jacket bright against the gray sand. I watched her crouch near the waterline, examining something in the wet gravel. 7 years old now. Growing up in the wreckage of her parents' choices, but growing up nonetheless. My phone buzzed. Text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Melissa. New phone. I'm at Danbury FCI. Can you bring Emma to visit next month? I watched Emma find a shell, hold it up to the light, decide it was worthy. She put it carefully in her jacket pocket and kept searching. I typed back, I'll think about it. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, thank you. I pocketed the phone and walked down to where Emma was hunting treasures in the debris left by the tide. Find anything good? I asked. She showed me a piece of sea glass, worn smooth by water and time. Green, translucent, all the sharp edges gone. It's perfect, she said. It is. We stayed until the cold drove us back to the car. On the drive home, Emma fell asleep in her booster seat, the sea glass clutched in her small hand. I thought about Melissa in prison, about Tyler Novak on probation, about insurance investigators and divorce attorneys and all the machinery that grinds through human mistakes, about trust and how easily it shatters and how long the pieces keep cutting you after. But mostly I thought about the girl sleeping in the back seat and the life we were building from what remained. Not the life I'd planned, not the family I'd imagined, but something real, something honest, something that didn't require me to ignore what was right in front of me. The floodwaters had receded. We were still standing. That would have to be enough. The truth is simpler than we want it to be. People show you who they are, and believing them the first time saves everyone pain. Trust isn't about giving people the benefit of the doubt until they prove otherwise. It's about recognizing that some doubts, once raised, can never be fully silenced. The evidence was always there. I just hadn't wanted to see it. In the end, Melissa didn't destroy our family because of one mistake or even a series of them. She destroyed it because when faced with choices, honesty or deception, integrity or convenience, our family or her desires, she chose herself every single time. And I learned that love without honesty isn't love at all. It's just a comfortable lie we tell ourselves until the bill comes due. Emma would be okay. Kids are resilient in ways adults forget how to be. And me? I'd learned to read the signs, to trust my instincts, to verify what my gut already knew. I'd learned that sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. The flood had washed away everything I thought I knew. What remained was harder, clearer, and unmistakably real.